Hello, everyone, and welcome to Starport Resort. This is episode 6. It is May 23rd, 2015, and I'm your host, Mad Moai.
And I am Mel.
Alrighty, so I'm going to assume that you've been playing The Witcher 3.
No,
No?
no. I had my last, my last finals were on Monday, and then it was 3 days of over drinking and celebrating.
Fair
So
enough.
today is the first day where I haven't been out all day. So
Have you picked that up and loaded it up yet, or?
no, I've there, I'm I've read about a couple of bugs and stuff that I'm waiting to see what happens with them. I don't know if there was some PC issues where you had, I don't know, with the graphic settings, and I'm kind
Like
of just
game-breaking bugs?
no, not game breaking, but I'm looking to see, waiting for, I guess, a developer response before I'd be like, here's $60. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Although on GOG it seems like you can get that for $40 or something ridiculous like that. Are you aware of that at all?
I'm checking that out right now.
Okay.
Now
Um,
$60.
Oh, is it $60 on GOG?
Uh-huh.
I thought I saw it cheaper last night, but whatever the case is, I heard people have been getting. No, see, I can buy it right now for $45.
It says $59.99.
$46.99 right here on. I just went to GOG.com.
Yeah.
That's weird. Maybe it's for Canada. Maybe they don't like you very much.
Fucking Canadians.
They're Polish, I think. CD Project Red.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
no, I mean just that you guys.
Polacks. Yeah, I don't know. Well, mostly, like, we usually have to pay more than you anyway, so.
Hmm.
I don't know what's going on with that then. I don't know why
Maybe
it's
they
showing up
feel
cheaper
bad.
over here.
They're like, you guys can have it cheaper.
Yeah. Pity the Canadians. Alright, well, I'll get into what I've been playing. I finished up Retro Game Challenge, mostly on the bus. I had a lot of time to do that while I was sick as hell a couple weeks ago, so, the only one I spent a lot of time with was the RPG, and that
Yeah.
was. I was about ready to be done with it by the time I got done with it. It was
Mhm.
about as long as you'd expect, like, Dragon Quest 1 to be, for example. Like, there were 4
Nice.
major dungeons, so
Pretty
that,
decent
that
then.
was good. Like, if you can find it for a decent price, it's probably worth picking up as long as you can get through the fucking racing game.
Mm.
Um, and then I played Pokemon Snap. That took a grand total of 2 sittings. That's a really quick game.
Yeah, there's not much to it. I never owned it, but I do recall renting it from Blockbuster
Yeah.
several times.
That's probably the way to play Pokemon Snap is a rental. Though that's not really an option anymore, but I got it for free through there's a points program on the site I buy a lot of games from, so I
Hmm.
thought, oh, what the hell, I'll pick up Pokemon Snap. Not sure if I'll hold on to that one though. It's not much substance to it. Just
No,
kind of
there's literally nothing to it. Just like,
whip
oh, I'm on
some
rails.
whip
Let's
some
take some
apples at
pics.
some Pokemon and take a picture when they get pissed off.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. It was a nice chill game to play while I was recovering from being like the flu.
Hmm.
So, but I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much if I wasn't half dying. Right after Pokemon Snap, I figured I should finish up my N64 backlog, so I jumped straight into Banjo-Tooie.
Yeah. The game
Now,
is hard as fuck.
not in a good way either.
No, it's in a very it's
Basically,
punishing. It's punishing.
the
I mean,
way
it's supposed to be like a kid's game, but like playing that game as like an adult, it's like, oh my god, this is almost impossible on some of those things. Like,
yeah. Well, the thing is, games used to be hard even for kids games. I miss that. Like even as recent as Ratchet and Clank, like that first Ratchet and Clank game was pretty unforgiving with the timing on some of the swimming areas and whatnot. Like if you weren't pretty perfect, you'd just drown. So I don't know. I kind of miss games challenging players, even if it's supposed to be a kids game. Like you know, there's no reason a kid can't practice either.
well, it's just that it's like I said, some of those challenges or some aspects of it are almost impossible to do. Like,
Well, yeah. Canary Mary comes to
I think
mind.
that is overboard, particularly for a kid's game. Like, like it shouldn't be that difficult.
Basically, okay, here's the conclusion I came to. It's a really good game. It's bogged down by being almost too ambitious. And by that I mean every level you've got like 4 different new mechanics you're trying out, and I don't think the hardware or the controller were up to the task of what they wanted to do. For example, like the shooting was abysmal because the stick sucks, so it's oversensitive, and they inverted up and down but not left and right, and there was no way to change that. So just aiming is a nightmare because if I'm going to invert aim like a weirdo, at least invert all of it so then I'm just mirroring movements I would be doing anyway.
No,
But
see, I have my y-axis inverted when I play every game.
Why?
I don't know. It's just...
You're insane.
I don't know. That's just how I've always played them.
You're insane, Mel.
I've always played them inverted. My x-axis is the same, but my y has always been inverted.
Wait, why? So side to side.
No, y is vertical.
I thought x-axis was the bottom line.
Yeah, that's left to right.
So it's up. X-axis? No. Well, I mean, you're the math person, so I'm not going to argue with you.
X is left to right. That's normal. But my y-axis is inverted.
Either way, I don't do it both or nothing. I hate it. Like, I would rather just, hey, if I'm pushing up and left, I want the cursor to go up and left. That's just intuitive. But I don't know, it doesn't usually bug me, but when the stick was also that sensitive, not big on it. Like, most of the challenge in Banjo-Tooie didn't necessarily come from the design, it came from
programming.
Yeah, just inability to execute what they wanted you to do.
Yep.
For example, I got damn near 100% on that game, but I couldn't do the final Canary Mary race. Anybody who follows me on Twitter probably saw me have a meltdown about that whole night, just flipping my shit, because I did that race so many times, I broke down the mechanics to the point where I knew exactly how she worked, but I still couldn't beat her because of the way the rubber banding was fucked. Like, you can mash your ass off, and then if you get too far ahead of her, she'll freak out and shoot right past you and instantly fail you, because I think maybe they assumed you were using a turbo controller. But then...
I don't think they... I think it was just broken.
Maybe
honestly.
I'm, giving them too much credit. So then what I did was I'd just slowly mash and keep right beside her, or right in front of her. But then right at the end, her finish line is closer than yours. Mm-hmm. And if you try to do a burst of speed at the end, she'll still freak out and shoot right past you. So, countless times, I beat her, technically, looking at the finish line, but they programmed her finish line closer than yours, so she would still win. So after about 2 hours of that, I just said, fuck it, I don't need that 25th Cheeto page, and I finished the game up that evening. So it was kind of, it's stuff like that kind of sours the experience of a game I otherwise really enjoyed.
Yeah. It does, because it's no longer fun or challenging, now it's just frustrating.
Yeah, especially when it's right at the end, because it's the whole level of Grunty Industries was actually a pretty huge headache, too. That took me 3 hours just because of... Do you remember that level at all? It was the big building?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It was a cool level, but it was just really hard to navigate.
It was just really
which I think was the point. Or maybe I'm giving them too much credit again, but, that was such a pain in the ass. So I don't know. I liked most of my time with Banjo-Tooie, which is more than I can say for the game I played next, which is Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Conker's Bad Fur Day was okay. The Xbox, the 360 version was better.
Wasn't it Xbox original?
Was it Xbox One?
Yeah.
Was it?
Well, the Xbox original. You can't say Xbox One anymore because retarded naming conventions.
What was it?
Conker's Live and Reloaded. It was for the Xbox. That probably fixed most of the problems with the fucking game, to be honest.
It did. I mean, again, they were trying... Oh my god, it was Xbox. Jesus.
That game has aged really badly.
Oh man, yeah.
Really badly.
They were... Is it the N64 version?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have an Xbox. I have taste. I'm gonna get some hate
Go
from
fuck
some
yourself.
people. What?
Go
Xbox
fuck.
original?
Yeah.
What are you big on there? See, that's what I always ask people.
Play a lot of Halo.
Oh, okay. It's just
A
Halo then?
lot of Halo. I had other games too. I don't
Yeah.
remember what they are at this point, but
I just
it's
like people get
mostly
real defensive about their Xboxes, so I just like to poke and prod. Didn't know you were one of them.
I liked it. It was not as amazing as the I think it wasn't as good as the PS2 or the GameCube for that matter, but
Hardware wise, it was the strongest. Like,
yeah.
it's my understanding multi-platforms generally ran the best on Xbox.
Mhm.
Problem was everybody had a PS2 already. PS2
Yeah.
was the weakest system of that generation, but that was
Yeah.
the leader because everyone had it.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Well,
like the 360 versus the PS3.
The big issue I think with the Xbox originally was the controller. It wasn't until they released the smaller version of the controller that I think more people picked it up.
Let me tell you a thing or two about that controller. That controller is the only thing about the Xbox that I like. I love
The
the Duke,
original one was okay, but it
the
was
huge
just,
one
it was unwieldy. Like,
with the
I don't
big
know.
ass Xbox logo in the middle for no reason.
Mhm.
See, I'm a big guy, so that controller that felt really good in my hands. That felt like a heavy duty controller. But I can understand if someone's got little hands, it would probably be a huge pain in the ass to use.
Yeah. So you didn't enjoy Conker's Bad Fur Day?
No, I didn't. I think it's really a product of its time. I think I ideally should have been a lot younger when I played it for any of the humor to really appeal to me. It's a lot of it's anybody knows. It's just a lot of pretty crass toilet humor, and
Pretty much.
I'm not a joyless asshole. It's just that's not really funny to me. And if I was 13 and I played this game, I probably would have been, laughing my ass off. But so the writing didn't do much for me.
Yeah, I think I was like 14.
The juxtaposition of like, turning platformer conventions on their head, that was interesting. But again, it was like little moments in between a lot of bullshit that was just unwieldy and shitty. Like some
The
parts of the
graphics-
games were so bad I wanted to just outright quit the game.
Yeah.
What about the graphics?
I think they tried to go a little too big with them.
Too big?
Like there was so much crammed in that game, you know, that I think they lost out on some of the texturing that they had in like Banjo-Kazooie. I
So
don't
you're
know.
saying you didn't think the game
it
looked good?
No, it was colorful and it was nice, but I felt like the size of the game meant that they had to kind of knock it down.
Like you feel it was less focused then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Well, that sort
been
of
a long
makes
time
sense with
since I
some of the
played it.
issues I had. Particularly, there was two parts of the game, three parts that really, really pissed me off to the point of like wanting to turn it off. The first was the lava race, where you're on this like hoverboard.
Yeah,
Do you remember that at all?
yeah.
Because that took me like 4 hours. Because like it controls like shit, and it's incredibly random due to the dinosaur. There's like this dinosaur that'll walk by, and if you just get the dinosaur at a bad time, you're gonna run into his fucking leg. Like you can't dodge it. I'm sure you can if you memorize shit, and I got sort of okay at dodging most of the time, but it would just run and it would ruin an otherwise good run. Like you're just done because the dinosaur decided to be there instead of where it otherwise would be.
Yeah.
So when I finally got done with that, and I just kind of kept trucking along, I got to the war, and the whole, like, the shooting in that game, while interesting, was pretty unwieldy as well, especially on the N64 controller. I don't know if you remember this, but basically you had to aim with your stick and move with the C buttons.
Mhm.
And that's not, that's the opposite of what everybody's used to nowadays.
Well, I mean, trying to go back and play a first-person shooter on the N64 is goddamn impossible at this point.
Even on the PS1, to be fair, because, like, I'll give
Like-
Halo credit where it's due. Up until Halo, shooters didn't really
I still
use that
think the
dual
Xbox
stick.
has the best controller for like first-person shooters, most comfortable like setup for those types of games. But like, like trying to go back and play GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. It's like how did I ever manage to do this? Like
See, I've never spent any significant amount of time with
oh my
GoldenEye or
God,
Perfect Art because
hundreds
I like.
hundreds of hours as a child.
Here's the thing: those games have not aged well either, and I was never too
No.
interested in them. So that's something I just decided like I'm not gonna bother with because the ship sailed on that.
Yeah, I mean, there was the Perfect Dark on the 360 was pretty decent. We had
The
that
remake or the shitty new one?
the remake.
Okay,
That was.
I was concerned about your opinion there for a second.
Oh no, that was such a disappointing game. It was so sad because I
Perfect Dark
really.
Zero, was it?
Oh God, it was so bad. It was so bad. Wouldn't even like. Yeah.
Wasn't that like a launch game or damn near?
It was a launch game and it was just fucking awful.
Did the 360 have any good launch games? Has anything had a good launch game since
say,
the not even the PS2? I'm gonna say
64?
PS2 had shit.
The 64, I think, might have been
Launched with no, it didn't even launch with N60 or it didn't launch with Mario 64. That was like launch window. I think it launched with like Wave Race and some other bullshit nobody cares about. So Super Nintendo, last good system with a launch game
probably.
packed into the fucking box. Because yeah, the DS launch sucked, the PSP launch sucked, I'm still waiting for a Vita game I care about. The 3DS launch was abysmal for about 2 years. So I don't know. I don't even know how we got onto launches. Basically, let's just move on here. Conquer was the last game in my N64 backlog. Unless I want to go back and like do F-Zero or something like that, but I always treat those as like multiplayer games. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's good. I got the N64 backlog out of the way. Really only waiting on holding out hope that they'll find those Mario Party games they lost in the mail and send them over to me. Yeah. I can't. I feel it's difficult to justify paying for them. Like,
How much should they go for?
alright, I've got a document here, but a lot more than you'd think. Because people really love Mario Party for some reason. Like, I just want 2 because that's what I remember. Let's see here. Mario Party. You got 1 going for $60 right now, 2 for $55, and 3 for $70. And those prices could have gone up recently because Mario Party 10 came out. That's kind of how these things go. Plus, N64 games, like, the few that get expensive, they get real expensive real fast.
Yeah.
Like, I think Banjo-Kazooie is still a $25 game, unless I'm mistaken. Which is crazy, because that's one of the best games on the system. But it probably sold well enough that there's just an abundance of supply.
I just have so many warm, fuzzy feelings about Banjo-Kazooie.
Like, people were telling me when I was complaining about Banjo-Tooie that Banjo-Kazooie is aged just as poorly, and I'm skeptical because I've played Banjo-Kazooie recently, and it holds up pretty well.
I can go back and play that, and it's totally enjoyable. Like, I totally...
My only issue is the flying, I think. Like, aiming,
it's
specifically in the
minimal,
snow level, aiming for those buttons and stuff.
Yeah.
The flying like that is miserable, but...
Yeah.
Banjo-Kazooie's, yes, you could buy that for $30 right now, so... You know, that's weird to me. Let's see. So that's all I've been playing. It's been a pretty light week, or light couple of weeks here, because again, I was sick for one of those weeks, and just like sick to the point where I couldn't even play games, which is not the kind of sick you want to be.
No.
So let's move on to news, which is sparse as hell. Oh, I guess I should ask if you've been playing anything or just studying your ass off.
Well, I was studying my ass off, and then
partying.
Pretty much.
Holy shit! Conker's Bad Fur Day is $125.
Jesus Christ. Well, I don't think it sold that well because it was an M-rated game, you know, and it was M-rated for reasons that didn't involve violence. So
oh my
Americans.
God. I should sell this fucking game, yo.
Should beat it.
I don't like it, and it's worth a lot of money. Worms Armageddon's something I would consider getting, but it's also that's $160. So I'm gonna stop reading.
Why the fuck?
Well, our Worms Armageddon for the N64 seems to be the definitive version of that game, unless you're talking like PC. Like, you got the 4 controllers on the N64.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me. That's always been expensive, even when it was new. Like, I remember seeing that at EB Games when I was a kid. Like, that never lost value. Banjo-Tooie is $40, probably again because there weren't many copies of it. Like, that was pretty late in the... that was 2000? Yeah.
It
PS2
was
was
right
coming out in 2001.
Yeah, it was right before.
So, yeah, it seems most N64 games actually haven't gotten too expensive, except for the Mario Party games and stuff for some reason. Anyway, the news. Let's keep on track here.
What news?
Bad. Yeah, not a lot. There's one I want to mention since we talked about ukulele last time, and that's the Igavania.
Yeah, I was reading about that yesterday, actually.
Yeah. What were you
I'm
reading
excited.
about it?
Just, I was reading about like what they wanted to do with the game, what they wanted it to be.
I'm stoked. This is what I've been begging for years and years and years, and Konami just kept saying,
I mean,
fuck you.
we honestly haven't had a game like this.
Since Order of Ecclesia.
Yeah. Really,
or you could, if you wanted to reduce it even more, we haven't had one like this since Dawn of Sorrow. Again, for the DS. Excuse me.
Yeah. So, I'm hoping it, like, lives up to everything it wants to be.
Yeah. That would be nice. Because then I've got my new Banjo game, I got my new Metroidvania, like, fuck, dude, I got everything I've been asking for. Like, make a new Dragon Quest, and you've covered almost all of my bases. I'm not going to ask for a new Mega Man anymore, because we've all seen how that turns out. Thanks, my dear.
I don't even think that you need, like, a new Dragon Quest game. You just need localized Dragon Quest games.
That's true. I don't need a new Dragon Quest game. Localize the goddamn Dragon Quest games. They got 7 over there already. They got those Dragon Quest Monsters remakes, and now they've announced 8.
David Hayter does a voice.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That makes me happy. This is Iga basically going like, hey, guess what? Konami's being a dickhead right now,
Fan
so
service.
give me some money. How about that? All you scorned Konami fans right now.
Dude, that collector's box.
He could not have picked a better time for this, really, if you think about it. Where's the collector's box? Here.
I was looking at the
down.
Kickstarter. Yeah, it's like
These swords look neat.
some expensive shit in there.
Yeah. I don't care enough to have a boxed copy because I'm not going to spend $60 on a game that's probably going to be like $20 on Steam just to put it on my shelf.
Yeah.
Plus, that's a big risk for a Kickstarter where, I don't like to take risks on Kickstarter stuff.
No. That's just...
It's already funded
smart.
5 times over, so I've found also that, like, when a Kickstarter gets way too much money is when things start to go
They're like, well,
crazy.
we're going to do this.
We're going to
this,
expand
and
our
that,
vision
this.
now, and then they go nuts, kind of like Mighty Number 9, except...
They expand way too big.
If I was a millionaire or something, I would totally buy the ring Iga crafted, though. That would be bitchin'.
$7,500.
Yeah.
Create a secret room. Only $8,500.
Man, that's kind of cool, though. So anyway, I'm hype about that. I'm glad it's doing well, because then I don't have to, pledge to it to make it happen. Other than that, and I've really been looking. Like, I've been looking. There's no goddamn news.
There's not much.
There's I went to the news site the other day. It's like, what would happen if fucking Square Enix designed Thor? I'm like, it's been a pretty slow fucking week.
Gives a shit, man.
So, Bloodborne's getting an expansion, which
Yeah,
isn't really surprising.
Really? I figured they were gonna do that. Like,
well, Dark Souls, both Dark Souls games had plenty of expansion DLC stuff. So I'm not surprised on that end.
Proper expansion?
No, I mean like DLC.
Okay.
I'm assuming anyway. But, Bloodborne sold better than Sony anticipated. So I'm not surprised they're going to want to, keep people on that train. Which, again, that makes me happy too, because Bloodborne was a fantastic game. So more of a fantastic game is... Provided they don't fuck it up like most DLC, is always welcome. Tentatively optimistic. Have you heard anything the past 2 weeks, sir?
Not a damn thing. Honestly.
I think everyone's just holding their hands close to their chest for E3 pretty quick here.
Everybody's like, let's pray to the gods for Fallout 4.
It's like 4 weeks, or 3 weeks we got 3 more weeks until E3 starts. So, I guess, nobody's going to talk about anything right now.
I want Fallout 4, honestly.
Oh yeah, that got, sort of leaked, didn't it?
Well, nothing official, and I know better than to even hold my breath on that. But they are having a presentation at E3, so
I doubt they're going to do another Elder Scrolls game so soon. Like, they've got to make their money back on Elder Scrolls Online. Somehow.
that was ZeniMax.
Oh, that wasn't,
That wasn't Obsidian or Bethesda.
I see.
That was ZeniMax.
How the fuck did that all work? They just licensed out the license?
I guess so.
All I know is that thing was dead on arrival, Elder Scrolls Online. Like I've
most-
never heard a good thing about it. Like, I don't, everyone's like, oh, this is going to be the game changer, it's going to kill WoW. It's like, as much as I don't like WoW, like,
Nope.
Blizzard can't even kill WoW, okay?
No, they seem to be trying really hard, but they
Yeah.
still can't do it.
So I don't know. I guess, man, this might be a really short episode because there's not a ton to talk about.
Well, like you said, we're almost at E3, so there's information drought right now because everybody's holding their cards for a couple more weeks so they can hype whatever it is that they got coming up.
So I've got this discussion of the week here that we were going to do last week that we can now do this week because I spent forever ranting about Medieval and you spent forever ranting about WoW.
Good times.
It's good times. I mean, we're talking about video games, aren't we? Here's the discussion of the week. People who think barrier to entry is an inherently bad thing. Now, I'm sure we're on the same page here when we think, like, barrier to entry isn't a bad thing. Like, at least
Unless
that's how I
it's
feel.
Financial barrier to entry.
Well, yeah, no, I mean a
Fuck
skill
off.
barrier to entry. Like,
No,
you're
not
going
a
to
bad
need
thing at
to pay attention and read and maybe do a bit of outside research to be competent to start this game. Or even, let's say, a sequel to a game, like, oh, the barrier to entry is like, I didn't play the original, that's not fair. It's like, fuck you, just go play the game. How about that? Like, I think a
I agree.
sequel's better off if it doesn't have to waste time hand-holding people that are already, like, you know, they're already there because they played the first game. Like, have an optional tutorial, maybe. Like, Mega Man X5 did this really well, and, you know, that's one of the few praises I'll sing for that game. But they had a tutorial thing right on the starting menu. And that was for like, hey, you didn't play Mega Man X4? Like, just run through this. It'll teach you the basic concepts of Mega Man. Which, you know, it's not a particularly complicated game, but it's a completely optional tutorial for someone who would, for some reason, be jumping in at number 5. You know, it's just... It irritates me when everybody seems to think they're entitled to be able to enjoy a game just because it's out there. For example,
Well,
The Witcher 3 right now.
It just means that you get a whole bunch of watered down piece of shit games.
Yeah.
So that's all that leads to.
Like, I want to play The Witcher 3. I've got a PS4, and apparently that version's not terrible. But I've got to play The Witcher 1 and 2 first, because I'm not that kind of asshole who's just going to be like, oh, the game's not holding my hand. Like, you know?
No, I think you could probably get away playing Witcher 3. I mean,
I know, but I still want to do my time and get, you know, I don't want to jump in at number 3, because then I'm part of the problem.
yeah. That's what happened in Mass Effect 3. They tried to get people who hadn't played the first two to play this one, and it's like, fuck you guys.
Hey Mel, spoilers, but we're going to have ample opportunity for you to talk about Mass Effect 3 in the question section. So maybe this won't be a super short podcast after all. I don't know, do you have anything else to say about the barrier to entry being like, it's not a bad thing.
It's by no means a bad thing. It's not for every game, and it's not for every type of game either, but certainly I think every genre really needs a solid game that really does have a somewhat steep barrier to entry, because that's how you have, you know, deep, complex, and dynamic gameplay. That's the only way you get that. If it's super easy to pick up and jump into, then your game isn't complicated enough, you know? And not saying that every game has to be, because sometimes I don't want to sit and play a complicated game, but occasionally I really do want something that's, you know, I can really sit and chew on.
Yeah.
But lately, like, there hasn't been much of that, you know?
Well, it's less and less. For example, the most recent Mario games, like 3D Land and 3D World, those games can get super fucking hard, but you have to play the whole game first, basically. And then it'll unlock, like, the real game, quote-unquote. Like, the super hard secret levels. So it's just like, I kind of wish there was a way to just be like, hey man, like, you know what you're doing. Just, you want to jump into the real shit right now, or you want to keep jerking around with this easy bullshit you don't care about? Because, like, it's not hard for the first 6 worlds of these modern Mario games because they're designed for kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, at this point, Mario is just a little kids game
Yeah.
that adults play because they played it when they were kids too.
I mean, I enjoy the Mario games. It's just, I wish they ramped up a bit faster. Like, I think that's more along the lines of, I don't think kids need to be coddled this much. Because, like, we played difficult games when we were kids, and we did just fine.
Yeah.
Like, it just teaches you to fucking get good.
Yeah, because like if you want to experience it, you're gonna have to meet their requirements.
It's like, Miyamoto said somewhat recently that, like, he doesn't feel people who buy games should feel entitled to see the ending of that game just because they paid for it.
Nope.
Like, the game's not required to hold your hand the whole time just because you bought it. When some people actually have that philosophy. It's like, I bought this game, why don't I get to finish it? Like, fuck you, just,
because you suck.
like, play
Stop
the game,
sucking.
get better at it, put your time in.
Yep. Well, I mean that all kind of ties in with the death of meritocracy and all kinds of other. But yeah.
Damn, that's fucking depressing.
Isn't it? Even the video games, like, this shit has metastasized beyond, controlling it at this point.
Like, there's people that wanted Mass Effect 3 to be, oh, I want just the cutscenes mode where it does the combat for me. And the problem is, ideas like that can start to take root in bigger companies.
That's what the novelizations are for. Honestly.
But reading books is boring.
Suck my dick. God.
Difficult. I thought I had more on this, but I guess I don't. It's just, I don't know. Moral of the story is get good, probably. If you suck at a game, like, practice until you get better. Or don't. I don't care. It's your fucking free time. But, like, don't ruin it for everybody else. Like, you wanting every game to hold your hand and be just easy to get into, that hurts people like me and Mel. Because what are we left with when we've spent our time playing all these easy games? Like, we want some expert level shit to get into. So, there's that. Barrier to entry is pretty good sometimes. Keeps out casual people that have no business in the game, really.
Yeah. I agree.
Let's see. So, before I get into new releases, I forgot completely about the surprise. Surprise. I'm going to send this to you in the chat here, and you can take a look. We got some official art, which anyone listening to has been looking at for about half an hour already.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, before anybody gets a weird idea, I don't smoke joints. The artist took some creative liberties because, I'll respect his artistic vision because I got some free artwork made for the podcast, and you'll never complain about that. That's rad as fuck, though, right?
That is rad as fuck.
It's made of clip art.
Like it should be.
Yeah. So we can't put it on t-shirts or anything, but I think that's awesome. I think I was starting to get fed up with the MS Paint pictures, so this will be a lot nicer on YouTube. I don't know.
That's great.
I think it's great. Thought you'd enjoy that. Shout out to the artist in question, Bartleberg. He's on Twitter, @Bartleberg. That's how it sounds.
Thanks, dude.
So, follow him. Give him your ever-loving love. Why is it ever-loving? Ever-loving Hulk. That's the only time I've ever heard ever-loving. Anywho. We've got some new games that come out recently. And games that are going to be coming out. Obviously, The Witcher 3. I imagine we'll have plenty to talk about in 2 weeks' time.
Yes.
Splatoon is coming out next Friday.
Are you going to be picking that up?
I don't know. And there's a couple reasons for that.
Because who knows if anybody else is going to be.
I don't think player base is going to be a problem. Everybody's rabid for this game. which is part of the problem, to sound a little bit hipsterish. It's like the game already has a weird, cancerous fan base like Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff before the games even come out. Like, people have gotten really weird about the Squid Girls
Oh
in a
God.
way I don't dig.
Why do these people even exist? They need to just kill themselves.
I don't understand it myself. It's just, I get bad vibes from everything I've seen so far, to the point where I'm like I might, if it's a good game, I'll probably still pick it up and give it a try, but man, it's
At this
really, like,
point,
the community is really off-putting already
you don't want to be associated
in a
with
weird
it
way.
at all. Yeah, I feel you.
But it's not like Sonic, where, like, those games just are fucking bad and there's no merit to them. Like, I'd probably play modern Sonic games if they didn't blow. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I'm just not as eager as I was a couple weeks ago. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't, people, you like whatever you like. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm kind of sick of seeing it all over the place. Man, it is sounding kind of hipsterish, isn't it?
When you
People are
start
just getting weird about it. I don't know how to describe
sexualizing
it.
Squid Girls, it's time to draw some lines in the sand right there.
That's just anime tropes, though.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that.
But
It
why?
happens so fast. Like, there's like such a weird, dedicated following to a game that's not even out yet, and I don't know how to feel about that. It's kind of weird. So I don't know. Like, I might give it a try. It seems like it's a pretty solid game, but it also just might not be for me. Like, I'm not big on squad-based shooters. I'm not big on just playing deathmatch all the
And
time.
see, I'm cool with that, but like, I don't want to. There are certain things that I don't do because I don't want to be associated with like a particular subculture. So if
I
they
understand
infiltrate that ahead of time, I'm really hesitant to even be interested in doing so at any point.
Okay, I realized what it's sort of reminding me of. I remember when bronies as a concept started to take hold. This is starting to feel weird in similar ways. You know what I mean? I'm getting brony vibes from the way these Splatoon fans, quote unquote, are acting.
Pretty soon they're gonna be an oppressed subgroup.
Yep, all them oppression. So, Splatoon. Keep an eye on that. If you're one of those people, I guess feel free to talk to me about it and tell me why I'm wrong. That Hatred game that got a lot of drama stirred up around it, that's coming out on June 1st.
The game that was undoubtedly gonna suck forever.
Oh yeah, like there was, it looks like just a standard double stick shooter, but then people got all squirrely about, oh, you can't do that in a video game, you know what I mean?
Since when?
So then everybody like banded behind this probably shitty video game, in the sake of anti-censorship.
I guess kind of went into like the Postal games, which were pretty fucking awful.
I've heard good things about Postal, maybe from bad people.
I mean, it's fun to be able to like do that stuff, but like as a game itself, it's not really well done.
Seems like maybe a modern take on what Conquer was trying to do. Like, let's just be as offensive as possible, and
yeah,
that's
the
the juxtaposition there.
I mean, like mechanically, graphically, like it's whatever. I don't really care, but
yeah.
Or when everybody was like having a conniption about Manhunt 2, which was fucking dog shit game. It's like, did you just forget that Manhunt 1 existed? Like,
that's how it goes. Like, games are only as old as as long as people have played them. For example, people complaining about the over-sexualization of characters in Metal Gear Solid 5. It's like, do you remember Sniper Wolf? No, fucking course you don't. You never played video games. You don't remember the boss having her tits out all over the place. You don't remember Eva. They don't play games. So, like, anything they've never heard of just doesn't fucking exist in their mind. Because the whole world revolves around them.
So sad and true.
So, Hatred's coming out, I guess. Pick it up if you want a probably shitty dual stick shooter. Or if you want to make a political statement. Puzzle and Dragons, That the thing packaged in with the Puzzle and Dragons Mario thing that came out
Yeah.
yesterday. I picked that up because I'm sort of interested.
Have you had any time with it yet, or?
No, and I'll tell you why. When I played Phantom Hourglass on my new 3DS or my 3DS XL, the stylus had a sort of seam on the tip, so I like scratched the shit out of my touchscreen.
Oh.
So I've been kind of hesitant to play stylus-focused games on my new 3DS because that screen is still immaculate.
I feel you.
So
yeah.
I kind of want to get like a screen protector before I really put any time into Puzzle and Dragons.
Yeah.
Because like it's kind of time sensitive, so I could do it with my finger, but it's kind of like too slow to do everything I need to do. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
So, but I think when I get the stylus or the screen protector, that'll be a really interesting game. Like, I really liked Puzzle Quest. I feel like it went on too long and was kind of like too repetitive. So, this is like combining Puzzle Quest with a sort of monster raising game, which I'm all about. I mean, I still play Pokemon. So, it's like, it's combining two things I sort of like. So, yeah. I'll probably have more to talk about on that the next episode.
Yeah.
So that's all that's coming out here.
So busy. No,
So
we'll save
busy?
it all for
Yeah.
2 weeks in the holiday.
I mean, if I were able to play Witcher 3, I probably would be okay until E3 anyway, because that seems like a massive game from everything I've seen.
I'm looking forward to digging into it. I'm probably just going to buy it later tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't heard a lot of problems. Like, what kind of problems have you been hearing about?
Well, I mean, and there was a couple of them that were just on the consoles specifically, but there was a issue that the PC version was graphically downgraded or not, and you have to kind of do something to fix it. So we'll see. I'm probably just gonna buy it anyway. Say fuck it, do what I gotta do.
I mean, I don't care about graphics too much, but that seems to be a hot issue for you, which I'm not. I don't question
advertised as one thing.
It's kind of like the Dark Souls 2 problem all over again.
Just tell me what's being advertised. That's all I ask. Tell me what is being advertised.
So, we've got a couple directions we can take here. We can do the questions and see how long that takes. Let's do the questions and see how long that takes. And then if we have time, we'll do 1 or 2 game showcases. Have you put thought into the game you mentioned to me last time?
Yes.
Like, enough that you could talk about it at length? Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
Maybe we could do that then. And if there's extra time at the end, we'll do the showcase I was going to do last week. Double up on the showcases. You guys are lucky. So, do you want to talk about Jet Force Gemini?
Sure.
That's the one you'd had in mind,
yeah.
right? Okay.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of surprising how many people that I've encountered who have never even heard of Jet Force Gemini.
I've heard of it, I just never played it.
I know it. My brother and I got it right around release, and it was particularly because it had a co-op in it. Because you could either play as Vila or Juno, or what was the robot guy's name?
I don't know. I never played the game.
I mean, basically you could just do co-op, and like you could switch the characters around depending on what level you were playing. In some levels,
I can't think of an N64 game that does co-op.
Yeah, you could play it co-op.
That was actually pretty novel at the time, wasn't it?
It was one of the it was great because my brother and I were young, and you always liked to kind of do stuff together at the same time. But yeah, so you had like Juno, that was the dude, and then you had Vila, which was his like twin sister, and Lupus was the dog. And so each kind of like level, you could go back and play them as anybody, but everybody had their own like set of abilities. So you could only get certain collectibles and stuff. It wasn't crazy amounts like it was in like Donkey Kong, but
that's Rareware too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So you can kind of see them kind of fleshing out some of those ideas earlier on.
Was this an early system game, or was it late in the
N64's lifetime? It was 1999, so it was kind of like...
Oh, that's like midpoint, yeah.
Yeah. was kind of in the middle.
I wonder why it didn't sell better. Sorry, I don't want to step on your.
No,
You're
go
talking
ahead.
about the collectibles and stuff.
No, it's just I think exploration was probably like the biggest aspect of the gameplay.
See,
So you had a galaxy that was it was like 15, and all of the worlds were really non-linear,
oh
and they were
yeah,
all connected by different types of doors, and they some of them opened like automatically, but some needed like a special action, like to kill all the enemies in the area, or they required a specific key or something like that. And you can take control of any and all three as you kind of go through the game of the characters using like their individual like abilities and strengths. Um, like Juno could like walk through magma, and Vila could like swim underwater forever. Lupus could like hover and sort of fly a little bit.
hovering's helpful.
Yeah.
See, you
So like
talking about this exploration is selling the game more than anybody's ever been able to me before.
yeah, I mean it was a good looking game. I mean it was a little muddy even for the N64 because we were trying to go for some really like deep vibrant colors.
Yeah.
But it's and the frame rate does occasionally suffer when there's a lot going on, but it is N64 and that
I
was
play I
a
play
problem.
consoles. I'm used to frame
Yeah.
bullshit. Huh. I might try that out because that's another game that's on the point buy list at my game shop or my online thing,
Yeah.
So I could
I
probably
mean,
get that game for free.
I would totally try to. I mean, because I know at the beginning the game doesn't like let you go to each of the worlds with whatever character you want, but once they reach a meeting point, um, like in the story, then you can go back and do it in any order you want with any character. So the I guess the main objective in the game is to like explore all the areas to save all the tribals, which kind of look like these little like half Ewok, half like Gizmo looking things, and collect spaceship pieces that allow you to get to the final stage.
And that was a shooter, right?
A third person, yeah.
Okay. And do you feel like the controls probably hold up all right? Because I haven't had a lot of good experience with shooters and Rareware on Nintendo 64 this week.
But this was designed, it wasn't just like a small aspect of it. It was
Okay.
designed to be a shooter, and it's third person and not first. So,
Yeah.
you shoot with the Z, you aim with the stick, and move with the C buttons. It's pretty intuitive. It's not, I mean, I think it's much more suited. The 64 controller is much better suited for like a third person shooter than it was like a first person shooter.
Yeah. So wait, you said you move with the stick and you aim with the C buttons? Or is it the other way around?
No, other way around.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I'm sort of used to that from Conquer now. So there's that. I don't know. I'll probably check that out.
I always really liked it. I really liked the soundtrack too. Like it had a pretty bitchin' soundtrack
that's a
for an
toad button.
N64 game.
Awesome. Sorry, I had to tell somebody something. Anything else you wanted to say about Jet Force Gemini? Soundtrack good. Like that'll help most games. I even sort of like bad games with good soundtracks. Not to play, mind you, but I'll listen to the soundtrack.
Yeah. I kind of was always a little sad that it was so overlooked. I mean, it's not like the most stellar game I've ever played in my life, but
Yeah.
I went out of my way to pick up a copy not long ago, and I was able to like play it like no problem, like kind of relatively recently. Usually the controls it's sometimes something to overcome, but I never had an issue with that.
Yeah. That's good. Like that's the whole point of this segment, really, is to shed light on games we love that people may have overlooked.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the downsides would be that the controls are kind of difficult. It's not necessarily that they're super wonky. There's a lot going on with the
It
controls.
takes some getting used to.
And you have to save every tribal in the game to like fully complete it. Like,
I mean, I usually try to 100% my N64 games anyway. I only
Yeah.
stopped doing that with like modern games where it's just like too much time wasty bullshit.
yeah, I mean, the N64 was full of a lot of original games, but I think Jet Force Gemini is really like one of the most like original titles that the game had.
That's awesome. Um, maybe I'll talk about a different game to keep in theme with this underrepresented game idea. Uh, I'll talk about a showcase this week too, if you're done with Jet Force Gemini.
Yep.
Alrighty. Have you ever played Jersey Devil for the PlayStation 1?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel about Jersey Devil for the PlayStation 1? It's a pretty polarizing game from everything I've heard from people.
It was okay. It was really different.
Yeah.
I recall having issues with the controls though.
Yep.
Like big issues.
So let me talk about.
It's been a very long. I mean, this was like a rental as a child kind of
Yeah.
thing. So but I remember being annoyed with some of the platforming controls were not the best sometimes.
I'm gonna do a huge disclaimer here. That game controls like shit. The only reason I'm even competent at it is because we had very few games when I was a kid, and this was like we got this one for free when Do you remember at all that early on with the PS1, some TVs like the display would just bounce up and down? You ever heard of this problem?
Mm-hmm.
So you had to get that shit modded, so we had to take it to a shop. And the shop gave us a free game for some reason for doing this repair. Maybe it was a promotion from Sony. So it was like either Jersey Devil or a bunch of shitty sports games. And my brother and I have never been into sports, so we didn't really like Jersey Devil from the demo we'd played on the demo disc. But, you know, that was the best choice there. So when you got a game and you got like 3 games, you tend to spend time with it. And through spending so much time with the game, I actually really grew to love it. It's, as you say, it's an interesting game. It's a platformer, you know, just typical Crash Bandicoot sort of platformer in that you can jump and spin attack and stuff like that.
It had a really nice art style, though.
Yeah, like it was trying to look like those Tex Avery cartoons, is usually how I hear it described. And, like, it's actually aged pretty well if you want to talk about, like, you know, Mega Man Legends. Games like that aged really well. Cel-shaded and simple, colorful shapes. Like, you're not trying to be realistic with these early polygonal PS1 games.
Yeah.
So that's actually aged well in the looks department, but goddamn, it is never controlled well. And I think someone who never spent much time with sort of janky PS1 games would have a miserable time of it, because, like, even I can't consistently do all the jumps in the game. Like, I think the game sort of compensates for that by putting free lives like all over the place. Like, I usually end up with 70 lives at the end of the game just because they're all over the fucking place. But I don't know, like, I guess I'm not necessarily recommending it, but that's a game I really, really love, and people tend to shit on it because it controls like shit. Like, if I didn't grow up with it, I would probably also think it's just really shitty.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a problem with a lot. I'd say the vast majority of platformers really just struggled with control issues back then.
Yeah. So I want to say it's a hidden gem, but it's, I don't know, probably rightly left in the past at this point. Anybody who's played the game and feels the same way I do, feel free to let me know on Twitter, and maybe we got something to talk about there on the next podcast. I'll always talk about comments I receive. I just don't receive any comments. This is me begging for comments, guys. So I guess I don't have much else to talk about Jersey Devil. It was a nice looking game. Like, it looked like a cartoon, you know? It had interesting boss ideas.
I mean, it was a little plain, but...
Yeah, but I mean, like, it did well with the technical limitations. So, like, they didn't have super muddy, over-complex textures. They'd have, like, a flat texture with, like, a couple details on it. Sort of like Mario 64, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the stone walls would just be, like, big, cartoony, round bricks instead of, like, trying to look hyper-realistic. Because those are the games that age really badly.
Yeah, well, it's not gonna work, man. PlayStation.
So, here's Jersey Devil. We did 2 showcases this week, because we're really low on content this week. Next week, or, you know, the next episode, hopefully we'll finally be able to visit Medieval. Because that's what I was going to talk about last week. I was going to talk about the original Medieval after spending half an hour bitching about the remake. So, hopefully you'll all remember around then.
Yeah.
We can move on to questions here. I think some of them will take a while due to the nature of BioWare. But let's start it off simple. Lamu asks, how many dicks have you sucked? I'm going to go ahead and say 0, and you don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
Enough
but
to
probably
know that,
also 0.
I was going to say it's enough to know that I don't ever want to do that again.
Fair enough. Can't say I blame you. I don't really want to do that either. Corpse Manus asks, do people think mecha collectors have stable home lives? I'm going to say largely no. I don't think people think that at all. Mecha collectors are... I think a lot of collectors in general is just kind of, if you get too deep into it, becomes problematic, to use my Tumblr words.
It's just specialized hoarding, really, at that point. It's...
Well, that's a bit harsh, because I collect all kinds of shit, and I don't consider it hoarding. I guess it's just if you go overboard.
If you don't have, like, entire rooms dedicated to, like, one type of thing, like, I think you're good.
My whole room's basically dedicated to games, though.
Yeah, but you don't have, like, 4 walls and shelves and boxes and...
Man, eventually I will, let me tell you. I plan on I actually do want to have a game room eventually. Because then I have room for all the bullshit games I don't even want. Like right now I have to be selective with my collection.
These are the games I don't dig that much. They're...
Games that aren't worth putting in the fancy cases I have to pay for, basically. So, Bull E Beef says, since it's BioWare's 20th anniversary, what killed BioWare for you? I think we can both agree that Mass Effect 3 was the final nail in the coffin.
That was the final. It started with Dragon Age 2, and then it was Mass Effect 3.
Yeah. Was it just those two? I mean, not to say those aren't plenty enough reason.
I haven't played one since. I was hugely into Dragon Age Origins and Mass Effect 1 and 2. And then Dragon Age 2 came out, and it was barely a fucking game. It was like, here's a city that is sparsely populated and there's nothing to do in it. From this point, we're going to introduce you to some characters you're really not going to give a shit about, and then we're going to shove you off into these randomly generated dungeons that all look the same. You're not going to actually traverse the distance between the city and these dungeons. You're just going to magically teleport to them, and you're going to mash buttons because the combat is about as deep as a toddler's swimming pool. So...
that all sounds like a fucking bummer, considering I've heard the first game's pretty involved.
The first one was basically a love letter to, like, PC RPG games. You know, but the combat...
like Baldur's Gate and all that.
Yeah,
right?
it could be as, complex as you really wanted to make it, Like, the depth was there for you to explore on your own. And, the story and the characters were so much more fleshed out. And, I got to Dragon Age 2, I got 2/3 of the way through the game, and I just said I don't give a shit, and I never finished it.
Fair enough.
And I probably had 250 hours total on Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even finish.
Was that multiple playthroughs, or?
Yeah, that was multiple playthroughs. Trying to play it through with, like, a different character or a different class or, whatever, making different choices along the way. Because, like, I cared about the game a lot, and I kind of wanted to experience it to its, like, fullest extent,
Yeah.
And,
so, understandably for you, then, Dragon Age 2 was a massive slap in the face.
It was. It was kind of insulting.
Oh.
And they were just trying to design a game that was going to function well on consoles, and it certainly felt like it.
Now, you liked Mass Effect 2, didn't you?
I did enjoy Mass Effect 2. I wish that the RPG aspects were deeper.
Yeah, but the shooting was better.
But the shooting was better, so, and arguably, I mean, everything about it was better. But I mean, people always say, "Oh, the first game, the RPG stuff was so deep," and it's like, no, it really fucking wasn't.
It
Like
just there
there
was more skill points you had to
was
dump into
more
shit.
shit you got, but you just junked all of it because
All
it
I
was
did was
useless.
like give Liara a shitload of warp and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you could. It
I just
wasn't
focused on
super
really potent
complex or deep.
abilities.
You can just stick the points into what you wanted that were gonna work, and you could just abuse it, you know. But I mean, there's a little bit more there than there wasn't two. Um, but I really I think the thing about two that I really liked the best was I really liked the characters in the story like the best. I loved it. Like it was great. It was like, oh man, I'm getting both things. Like I'm getting like fun gameplay, but like I get this like really cool science fiction story too, and I love science fiction.
Yeah, I
So
really like Dragon Age or Mass Effect 2 as well. Like
I
I
thought
was
it
sad
was
I
a
didn't have
great
Rex anymore, but
I thought it was a great like midpoint, you know, kind of,
yeah.
you know, you had the first one which set up the, overarching story, and then in Mass Effect 2, you got this kind of intermediary like bad dude that was connected to the bigger picture that you had to deal with, you know. I felt it like kind of bridged that really well. And there was a lot of urgency, I think, in Mass Effect 2.
Yeah.
No, you felt like, oh my god, like I care about like my crew members and stuff. I have to make sure that I literally do everything I have to so nobody dies, you know? And,
Yeah, I put a lot of effort into preserving my entire team.
yeah, because I gave a shit about them. Like,
Yeah.
the dialogue was great. They were well acted. Like, I actually cared about these fucking fake people. And, that takes quite a bit to do, you know?
Yeah.
And,
There was no reason Mass Effect 3 should have sucked as much as it did.
no, the biggest issue with Mass Effect 3 was that all along we were promised that all of our choices were going to matter in the end, and not a single fucking thing I did in those two games mattered at all.
But Mel, people totally recognize you from a insignificant scene in the first game. Doesn't that count?
No.
No, I agree.
No, it does not. It was, I don't know, it almost hurt to play Mass Effect 3.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was not a fun experience.
Like, I had gone, like, before Mass Effect 3 came out, like, I went back through, and, like, I replayed each game. I replayed Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, and I, like, tailored all of my decisions so that, I figured I was building up to, I didn't know what the ending would be, but I wanted a certain type of ending, so I made sure that I did everything to, get as close to kind of how I wanted things to be as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And then none of it fucking mattered.
Were you a Renegade or a Paragon?
I usually always went Paragon.
I did the first time, but then, like, for circumstances I'd rather not get into, I ended up having to replay Mass Effect 2 with a character that wasn't necessarily mine. So I just ended up making her a Renegade for shits and giggles. And let me tell you, Mass Effect 2 is a much better game when you play as a Renegade. You get to do all kinds of fun shit.
I have played as Renegade, but I wanted my character to be, you know what? I'm like the only person with a vagina on this planet that played as default male Shep. Like,
oh, you played as Dude Shep?
I played as Dude Shep.
Hmm.
And, I was, because when the game was being, advertised, it was Dude Shep, and I kind of came to associate the story with Dude Shep, and it seemed weird to me to change that. I don't know why, it's bizarre, whatever, but I just played as default Dude Shep.
Well, I think a part of that is there was a model for Dude Shep in Mass Effect 1 and 2, whereas I think for the female it was a generic.
Well, Femshep, yeah, it was kind of generic,
like she didn't get a model until the third game, and then see that kind of pissed me off too, because the second playthrough I did of the first two games, I played as Femshep, and I used the default Femshep because it was the least shitty looking one.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the third game, she's completely different, because it brings over that it's a default character, so then my character looks completely different, and that just rips you out of
it does. It's
all of that.
I've spent all of this time with this character.
But she's still got Jennifer Hale's voice, so...
But it doesn't look the same.
Like, it's weird. It's not right.
Yeah, that made me kind of glad that I had just stuck with Dude Shep.
It seemed like a weird choice to make right at the end. But
Well,
they made
you know,
weirder fucking choices.
I mean, it's just I don't know. I was sold on something, and then when it came to the end to get it delivered, it was
Red, green, or blue, yo.
red, and they were all the same fucking color. Honestly, like
I don't even remember what I picked because it's so inconsequential.
yeah, at that point I didn't even care anymore because I mean the whole point to the series was to have decision making control, and at the end I had no decision.
Hmm.
I mean, you could make some kind of philosophical argument, like, oh, that was the whole point, but you know what? If I'm giving you my money, leave the philosophical argument bullshit out because I want what I paid for. And this is what was advertised to me, this is what you guys consistently said we were going to get, and then we didn't get it. And I went to all this effort to be invested in, this world building and these characters, and then you just shit all over it. Like, that's not even remotely fair or okay to do.
I feel it's also kind of poisoned the well on the intellectual property.
It has, because now, I mean,
Everyone's going to
number one,
associate it with
I
that
don't
horrible ending.
I don't trust BioWare, and number two, it Mass Effect's universe is just tainted to me now.
Which
I
sucks
can't
because that was a really interesting, well fleshed out universe.
and you know how hard it is to get science fiction universes that are that well fleshed out, particularly in
Like usually you don't give a fuck about there's like 4 weird races here, but like they fleshed them out in such a way that you sort of cared about most of them.
Yeah,
Like I
and
really
or I
like
was
those
interested in
slow
them.
talking lumbering dudes. What were they called again? The ones who would say their emotions because they couldn't convey them.
The
Elcor, I think.
Yeah,
I liked those dudes quite a bit, like immediately.
yeah,
Just like little details like that. You get it right, and you've got me.
but and
And they
then
just whizzed it all down their leg.
you made it, and then the last boss was fucking Marauder Shields.
I don't even remember the last like combat or
That
anything
was
like
it.
that.
It was like 2 random NPCs, Marauder Shields, and you shot them, and then that was it. That was the end of the combat. And then you had some fucking Deus Ex Machina bullshit right up at the top, where some, little
Smoking Man
virtual.
just shows up for no fucking reason.
It just all kinds of weird stuff. It's like, and then some little piece of shit AI tells me, "Oh, you don't really have a choice here. Here's, what you guys get to pick from. None of it really matters. Those decisions you made over the last 150 hours of gameplay don't mean fucking jack shit." Like, it makes me so angry.
An extra piss off too is how the game's journalists handled the outcry. We're all just entitled. We feel like we're entitled to a good ending to a game just because we bought it. And that's a pretty
No,
piss
I'm
poor
not.
attitude to take.
Yeah, it wasn't that I felt entitled to what ending I wanted. I felt entitled to having
A good ending.
my decisions affect the ending. Like BioWare it was totally up to them to give us, varied endings that reflected back on what my fucking save file said I decided to do, back in 2010 or whatever it was when the first one came out. But none of that mattered. That was the point. Everything I was doing was supposed to matter, and then it didn't matter.
It's just a piss poor attitude to take, and it's also wrong to assume that people aren't mad for a good reason about that ending. Like I know it's long after the fact now, but it still pisses me off the attitude they took. Like, oh, just fucking take it and accept it. Like, fuck you. Like, I'm allowed to complain about bad things.
They rushed the game to get it out.
That's EA's fault, no doubt.
And it would have been, so easy to have just gone a totally different direction with it and just made, I mean, nobody's ever going to be happy with any, ending. Like, you're not going to get everybody to agree, like, oh, that was great, but at this point, like, nobody's fucking happy with it.
When I got around to finishing Mass Effect 3 and I talked to you about the ending, and you showed me, like, hypothetical things that they were just kind of kicking around for what the ending would have been, like, that made it hurt just that much more. Because you get a glimpse of, like, how good it could have been.
Originally, they had this whole idea with, like, dark energy or whatever. And somehow, some way, this original kind of, like, ending, not like on a scene by scene basis or anything, just where they wanted to take the series, was leaked, and then they just changed it all of a sudden.
Is
I
that
don't
why they
understand.
changed the ending? Because it
That's
got
why they
leaked?
say they changed it,
Fucking.
but like, yeah, because there was all these little like um breadcrumbs towards like dark energy, dark matter kind of ending, with Liara doing her research and stuff, and then you had Tali, and then they went nowhere with it, and they decided to go with what we actually got.
Like, that would have made the Reapers technically the good guys in a sense, wouldn't it have? Is from what I remember.
Would have made it really complex, but
Yeah, like more
yeah.
complicated than just
Yeah,
bullshit.
we're gonna kill all of you. Blah.
Yeah. Because I like twists like that, where it's like, hey, dumbass, you just stopped, like, the only thing that was keeping things in check. Like, to talk about Golden Sun again briefly, as a tangent, like, you realize, oh no, I shouldn't spoil it. Okay, spoilers for Golden Sun, jump ahead like 30 seconds. You realize, like, right halfway through the second game, like, hey, like, everything you were doing in the first game, you were fucking up the world. Like, the villains in the first game were actually trying to save the world by unleashing the energy, and you find out, like, you've actually just been counterintuitive to fixing anything. You've been doing harm, actively doing harm by trying to stop what the villains were doing in the first game. And that, it's kind of it's a well explored trope in writing, but it's one I enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it interesting, and then it makes you reflect on decisions that you made previously when you didn't have all the. I mean, and then you can go back and play through it and see it in a totally new light. But
Yeah. Morally gray is absolutely the way to go with conflict.
I just don't understand what they were thinking with the ending they decided to go with.
It's fucking lazy. Like, that's all it reeks of, is laziness.
It made no. I mean, there's a lot of really great theories, like, oh, that he was indoctrinated, like, or was slowly being indoctrinated by being, adjacent to this Reaper tech for all of his time, and that what was really going on was kind of like, Shepard overcoming that, or, all kinds of stuff. And
Yeah, but that reeks of, everyone who gets on those theories is like, oh, look, Ed, and Eddie is actually a bunch of kids in limbo. It's like
I mean,
people compensating for the bad writing.
They really, at this point, because what you were left with was so terrible, like, it felt more comfortable to go to something like that, But
I know, I'm just saying, like, I don't give them that much credit.
no, I don't think that is what was going on at all.
I like reading theories like that, but I don't put any stock into them.
I would rather think that, because it's be like, okay, well then maybe everything wasn't for naught, but we have what we got, and it's just one of those life things, like something you love dearly that's in somebody else's hand can get shit all over by them. Because
it's probably the biggest shame of the last generation.
I mean,
like
for
the
me
single biggest
personally, it
shame.
really is. It really is.
The biggest letdown.
I would, like, I loved that series so much, and then it was just utterly destroyed.
Yeah. And the way I ended up playing, like, Tali killed herself and stuff, like, I wasn't... Because I didn't want to read through and, like, oh, what choices are going to affect what, so it's like a bunch of people I cared about just got fucking offed for no reason. Like,
Yeah,
Morden died,
just...
I don't even know if there's a way around that. They wanted me to exterminate
they rushed the whole game. They
wanted me to exterminate the Krogan, basically, and, like, if I wanted to maintain my Renegade character, I would have had to do things that made no fucking sense to do. Like, it's just pure edgelord shit.
Even, like, the ending of the game, what was considered the Renegade and Paragon was not really Renegade or Paragon. It was... I don't really know how you would describe it, but it was neither of those things.
I think I destroyed all the synthetics, for whatever that's worth. Hybridization sounds like hippie shit. I don't even remember what the third one was. Indoctrination, was it?
Yeah,
and
I think
who
so.
Fucking cares? It's all crap.
They were all terrible.
Have you ever seen the comparison videos? The comparison videos of the same endings with different colors. Yeah.
Like, how is that even okay?
That's
They just
an atrocity.
rushed it. They just rushed it. Everything about the game was just ridiculously fucking rushed. Nothing I did in 2, all of those relationships with my crew that, I really went to the umpteenth to kind of like nurture and cultivate were not even there. Nobody from Mass Effect 1 was really even there. It was just like,
Yeah, Liara was sort of around.
yeah.
Like for my
And like,
femshep run, that was my lover in the first game, and then I didn't do any relationship in the second game so I could be faithful to her. And then like I fucked up some sort of dialogue in the third game, so then I just didn't get a romance in that game either. Like,
it's so dumb.
I don't.
It's like they tried to tie up stuff, but it's like, if you decided to fuck somebody, it's like they didn't even know you existed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I'm sorry, but I went way out of my way with you, girl. And now it's like none of that even happened.
Girl.
It's like, oh my god, this is just awful. There's so much bad, so much bad.
So yeah, that's what killed BioWare for us, Bully Beef. I'm pretty sure that's what killed BioWare for most people.
Yeah, I'm like, I haven't given them any money since, and I don't plan to. I really don't.
Can't say I blame you. Apparently, Sysquisition wasn't very good.
Yeah, I don't have any interest in that. I'm like, not even Claudia Black doing a voiceover in the game has got me to play it, and that is saying something.
You a big fan?
Yes.
Is that the Chloe model, or is that someone else?
Yeah, it's Chloe and
Uncharted?
Morgan.
Huh?
Morgan
Oh,
from
from
Dragon Age Origins. Yeah.
Gotcha. But that's Chloe from Uncharted?
Mhm.
Because I never played Dragon Age. So.
Yeah, that's Chloe.
She's all Australian and shit.
Mhm.
Alrighty. Why is Bully Beef's penis so big? I haven't seen it firsthand. I'm going to assume you're lying. Joey RPG asks, why are Japanese devs so based and the best? It's because they're not having knives held to their throat by political correctness activists in their country. Like, they act like the Japanese game industry is this wicked sexist thing, but everything I've seen, like doing footage from Japan there, like there's just as many women on the teams and they're all working together to make a product. It's less about being an individual in cultures like that. It's more about getting the fucking project done. So it kind of helps that nobody's trying to force them to fuck with their artistic vision, for lack of a better word. How do you feel about Japanese devs? I know they've kind of fallen from grace in recent years.
I think they've just been slow to adapt to change, Yeah. But it's also because in Japan they are way more focused on phone and mobile games.
Yeah.
Than we are in the West. So I
Which
think
baffles me, because you'd think they'd have better taste in games, having the best games
yeah, but they
around
spend
for
like
years and years.
90% of their life on public transportation. So.
That's true. Yeah. Who's your favorite Japanese dev? Once upon a time, before I knew any better, it was Inafune, but turns out he was only ever just a producer. I'm, can't go wrong with Kojima. That man is motherfucking crazy. I also really dig Kamiya's attitude, which some people aren't big on. Are you aware of that at all, Mel?
Mhm.
How do you feel about Kamiya?
I mean, he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah. He's just not big on it. Some people need to be called out for being stupid assholes. It's just refreshing to see how unprofessional and honest he is. Just like the most honest person I have ever seen on Twitter in a professional aspect.
You're not really beholden to anybody. Like, you shouldn't be expected to, act or speak a certain way. He's speaking for himself, and he makes that clear. And like it, okay. If you don't like it, okay too. Just shut the fuck up about it.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's funny.
It is.
So, I also like a lot of Platinum's games. Bayonetta's good. I enjoyed Vanquish. Never got around to Beautiful Joe, which is back when they were all in Clover.
So good.
That's what I've heard. What else have they done recently? I've got Wonderful 101. I just haven't been able to start that up yet. But Platinum makes good games. So,
They do.
there's still a couple Japanese devs putting out some good shit. Nintendo consistently puts out pretty good stuff. It just takes them quite a while to get there.
Forever.
And I hope whatever Kojima does, he gets to be just as crazy as he is now. Because that would be a goddamn shame if he ended up having to work on phone games or something.
Rest in peace, Silent Hills. Rest in peace.
He has a third question. Why are Japanese games literally the best?
I don't know about that.
Well, most of the games I really dig are Japanese, but that doesn't mean I mindlessly only play Japanese games. It just turns out that what I grew up playing, that was all Japanese shit.
Yeah, well, most people grew up playing.
I'm pretty resistant to change. So, that's why they're the best for me. I don't think, especially modern Japanese games, take a look at Lords of Shadow 2. Tell me if you still think Japanese modern games are the best. I think they've got a lot of catching up to do. They've got a lot of things to break out of before they can start competing again. Or they'll just quit like Konami and start making fucking phone games. Which is what I've heard they're doing. That might have been a Photoshop picture, though. I don't actually care anymore. They've kind of, they've pretty clearly expressed they're done either way.
Yeah, they killed everything anybody ever cared about.
Fuck it. We're out. Peace. Shura Asagi asks, do you prefer classic Castlevania or Metroidvania? Now, for how often I talk about Metroidvanias, I think that's pretty clear that I'm all about the Metroidvanias. But that doesn't mean I dislike Classicvania. It's just they're completely different games in a way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're too different to really compare on that level. I really enjoy the old ones, but I really like the new ones too.
Yeah. If I had to pick between the two, I would definitely take Metroidvanias just because I like exploring, I like finding hidden items, I like leveling up characters. I've never been super big on side-scrollers. Like, I'll play them, but the more RPG elements a game has, the better, in my opinion. For me, anyway. Bartleberg asks, do you like me? Well, you made that thing for me, so that's getting you points right now, isn't it? That's not worth exploring further. So, it's a little under time here, but we did alright, considering we had almost nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
Up to an hour and 22 minutes or so. So, any final thoughts?
I would love to have a Metroid Prime game again.
Metroid Prime. That's something I gotta get around to. Did you enjoy all three of those?
I enjoyed the third one less.
That's more or less what I've heard. I've heard the third one's maybe not even worth playing.
Yeah, you could skip it. But definitely play the first one. And even the second. But definitely the first one.
Kind of slides downhill from the first one, though, huh?
As with most things.
Well, I don't know. Like, back in the PS1 era, specifically, if you want to look at PlayStation 1 platformers, Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3, 2 is the best by far. Spyro, same deal. Twisted Metal,
Naughty
same
Dog
deal.
seems to do that. They're like, we have a decent intro, a great middle, and a whatever end.
I don't know. All Naughty Dog seems to do now is make the same shit over and over again. Like HD remakes of games that are less than a year old, and another Uncharted. Which I understand a lot of people left the company when that was announced, because then they're working on like Uncharted, Last of Us, Uncharted. I think people were starting to get kind of burnt out.
Yeah, man. Give us more of that.
Well, I heard they were like trying to do a modern reboot of Jak and Daxter, but they couldn't. Something about the way the human looked, like, it didn't look right for the cartoony style it had before. I don't know, I don't know why you wouldn't just make it look like better cartoony shit. I don't know why you'd want to take it in a more realistic direction.
Who knows?
But that's just me. I never played Jak and Daxter, actually. I was more of a Ratchet and Clank guy.
Jak and Daxter was good.
Yeah.
Kind of hard.
Jak 2 was really off-putting for me because, the first one looked good, then the second one looked like a weird GTA type thing, and it didn't look like there was a lot of platforming anymore. It seemed like more of a third-person shooter. Is there still like plenty of platforming in the second and third one?
Quite a bit, yeah.
Hmm.
I'd say it got a little bit more varied in the second and third one, but
See, I'm stubborn. Like, as soon as you say, "Oh, the game's not what it is the last time," like I get kind of mad. I'm actually really bad for the concept of progress in game design. If you think about it.
old man you.
Like, if they suddenly said, "Hey, there's not 8 bosses in Mega Man anymore," I'd go fucking stab them in the face. What are you doing? Stop it.
Well, at this point, there kind of has to be. I mean, we've
Well, I mean,
gone
at this point,
way too many decades with no change to do it now.
Man, I don't know. We've also like gone. I want to say at least 5 years since a goddamn Mega Man game. At least it feels like that. I think Mega Man 11 is the most recent one. So whenever that came out. Mega Man 11. I'm fucking rambling now, so after I pull up this date here, I'm going to turn it off. Oh, there is no Mega Man 11. Mega Man 10 is what I was talking
10,
about.
right?
2010. So yeah, 5 years now. Holy shit, it's been more than 5 years. Thanks. Thanks, guys. I really dig it. I really dig it. Because, you know, Inafune is not going to solve the problem, so you guys are still in the game. You can,
You can make it.
You can do that.
You can do it.
Please?
It's within your power.
Please respond, Capcom. Okay, I think that's enough for this week. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at TheMadMoai, and she's... Yeah, you can do it.
I could do it.
Yeah,
I'm
you
at
could do
some
it.
math dork.
Sounds like you slurred there. I could do it. You shut
I
up.
could do it, guys.
My fucking handle.
I got this. Sit down.
We're also at Starport Resort. Follow us there if you want to see when I upload shit. I think you should. I may be biased, though. Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Later.